Okay, next topic. All right, and this is going to be coming. This arrives out of a discussion that I had with my brother at lunch a short while ago. The topic here today, or for this section, is motion. Is it a noun or is it a verb? All right. We started talking. My brother and I started talking over lunch about the question of what is fundamental. All right, and his position was energy is fundamental. And I, of course, hear that a lot. I mean, people, in many circles, in philosophy, religion, science, whatever it might be, mostly science and philosophy, they're not so much religion, will point to energy as being the fundamental thing. Okay, it's like everything is energy. We go back to Albert Einstein, of course, and his famous quote, E equals mc squared, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. So you have the equivalents. Everything we see around us, this can of soda pop, this book right here, which I'm going to get to in a few minutes. Everything is these all this matter. If you slowed it down enough, I'm sorry, if you sped it up enough, sorry, you multiplied it by the speed of light times two, it turns into pure energy. At least that's the theory. The question, that he and I, my brother and I were talking about is that fundamental? Is energy fundamental? And I threw out some other things, like, well, what about matter itself? Just because matter is, able to become pure energy can become matter, right? Because all you need to do is slow it down enough, and then it becomes frozen, right? It becomes in this form, which is matter, something solid. And I'm tapping on the table here, something that we can see and feel and taste and touch. And so that, so is matter fundamental? Maybe both of them are fundamental. Well, they could be. You can say it as the same, two sides of the same coin. So maybe they're the same thing, just a matter of how fast it's going. All right, but what about, I also threw out, and this is a bit of a tangent for right now, but something to think about down the road. I also threw out information as being something that's fundamental. There's a lot of scientists, a lot of thinkers out there that talk about information being fundamental as opposed to energy or matter or something like that. And there are a few other things we're going to get to in a bit that really, are taking kind of a pretty aggressive move towards, whether or not they're fundamental, and something that I've talked about on a previous show too. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but I want to kind of launch off on a point that really relates to energy and matter, but it's about what is fundamental at all scales, okay? Because there's a great book, and I'm gonna hold it back up again so you can see it. It's named "The View from the Center of the Universe," and this is by Joel Premack and Nancy Edmonds, their husband and wife team that wrote this book back in 2006. And they said that well, I'm not going to read the quote because it's a little too short, but what they were basically saying is that there is nothing fundamental. There's nothing that's significantly important on all time scales. So again, what's fundamental? Well, you can ask that question. Is that whatever is fundamental, it should be significant on all time scales. And I'm sorry, on all time and size scales. They're saying no. They're saying there's nothing fundamental on all size scales. And it was a fantastic point when I read it. But I question whether it's true. And so I want to kind of explore that a little bit in the context of whether energy and motion and matter and et cetera or information is fundamental. And I just threw it out there just now. My question is well, is motion itself fundamental on all size scales? They start out by looking at gravity, and they say, well, gravity on the large size scale is very important. I mean, the Earth and the Moon, it prevents the Moon from crashing here, but it also keeps it with, gravity also keeps the Moon within nearby distance and not flying off into space from the Earth. So it's of significant importance on that level, and of course at the galactic and super galactic level, gravity is a massive force. But here on Earth, their point is, and it's a great point, is that it's not that strong here. It's not that significant here on Earth itself. Like for instance, and you can't see it, but I'll show it to you a little bit like this. If I put a pen on top of this book, and I can easily take the pen off of it and put it back down. First off, it's not flying away, but I can easily pick it up and put it back down. It's not that gigantic of a force. It's a very weak force. We talked about this in the context of autism on another show, on a previous show, why is gravity not that strong? But that's too much of a tangent. I want to kind of stay on this point. All right, they were saying that because gravity is not significant on the small scale, certainly not at the quantum level, which they're looking for quantum gravity, haven't found it yet. But nevertheless, because gravity isn't significant, they're saying nothing is significant on all size scales. And I'm saying, well, wait a second, let's take a look. Is that true? Because is motion something that is significant on all size scales? I mean, after all, everything is moving. Everything in the entire universe, and I'm throwing this point out to my brother as we're talking, the space and time itself are moving. They're expanding as we know it. Everything within space and time is moving, is in motion. Even things that are in the dead space have what are referred to as virtual particles. And I think it's a very solid scientific point that the space is not just filled up of nothing. It's filled up of a lot of motion. It's filled up of particles, virtual particles, popping into and going in and out of existence. And it's just which is a super cool thought on its own. But the question then, I guess, is this. If that's the case, then is motion a noun or a verb? If you attach it to energy is always moving, everything's moving, but is everything, let's say you use energy for an example, is energy, let me put this in a different way. Is motion something that energy and everything, is it something that it does, or is it something that it is? And that's where the question, is it a noun or is it a verb, comes from. So are we looking at something that, we can say is a really bizarre way of looking at it, but are we as human beings and everything that we see around us, is everything just a form of motion? And is motion fundamental? All right? And is it okay, energy, information, matter, etc. You could take all that, but fundamentally, even beyond that, is it motion? Is everything just motion? And that we're just experiencing it differently? And is it something that, like I'm saying, is like, use energy as a great example. Photons flying through space. All right, they are flying. Is that something that they're doing, or is it something that they are? Is it something that they, is their nature? And again, if it's something that is not what we or everything does, but rather it's what it is, it requires a significant change in the way we look at things. Then we would look at ourselves as being something different than a solid item or solid thing, but rather we're a function, or we are motion, just like everything else would be motion, just a matter of expressing itself in different ways depending on how fast it's moving. Right? Or maybe there's something else that's fundamental to it that's not just the speed. It could be the manner in which it's moving. I don't know. But I do know, or at least I do think, I should say that, I'm questioning, is Joel Premack and Nancy Abrams, are they right? That there's nothing that's significant on all size scales? Or is this question is posing a challenge to that, which is, well, what about motion? Is that significant on all time and size scales? I'm saying there's a good argument to be made about it. I want to know more. Obviously, I don't know the answer to it myself, but I'm looking for, we're going to interview scientists and any various thinkers of all kinds about exactly that question. And let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to know the audience interaction on this, whether or not is motion, is it a noun or is it a verb? What's your thought? Go to the website, exusthepodquest.com. Let me know what you're thinking about that. Also, come back to the YouTube, like our YouTube, which is, of course, vital, and subscribe. We're getting more subscribers, which is fantastic. Love to have more and more. That would be great. The larger the audience, the more people we could talk to, the better. But also, more comments we'll get. So please leave a comment. The comment section is wide open. You guys go there, and we will be going ever forward.